Microphone is on the road, and we're visiting for our program today at the home of John Sledd, Mr. and Mrs. John Sledd, who live at 102 West 8th in Benton, Kentucky. John, thanks for inviting me into your home.
Well, we just appreciate having you, Dr. Mofield.
We saw you the other night at some sort of a meeting, and it just occurred to me that I'd never invited you to testify on our oral history program. And as I recall, I asked you then if you were old enough at 65, and I think you said you were.
Well, I'm a little past 65, but I guess you probably already maybe know more than I can remember anyway, so.
No, every person is different. Everyone has a different family. Let's start out and ask your father's name.
My father's name was Sam Sledd.
Uh-huh.
My mother's name was Bertie.
Bertie Sledd, and before she married, what?
She was a Estes.
Estes, uh-huh. And do you remember anything, John, about your either side on your grandparents, maybe?
Oh, yeah, I remember my grandparents on my mother's side real well. Now, on my daddy's side, I remember my grandmother, but I don't remember my grandfather Sledd.
Uh-huh. What kind of a name is Sledd? Is that English or Scotch or Irish or?
Well, really, I don't know for sure, to tell you the truth.
I wondered
about
that. Some of these names, you know, they just kind of stick out, like Bloomingburg. You know, that's German. But Sledd doesn't say. I guess it's probably just an English name. At least it's from the British Isles, no doubt. And the genealogists are always interested in finding out those things. Where were you born, John?
I was born down on Gibbertsville Route 1, about halfway between Gibbertsville and Bryantsburg on the old Gibbertsville-Bryantsburg Road.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's sort of the heart of Marshall County, I guess you could say.
Well, I guess, uh-huh.
Garden spot of the world.
Oh, yeah.
What was your father's occupation? Farmer?
He was farmer, yeah. He was farmer, and he had a little grist mill. He ground meal for the neighborhood. People would come for several miles around to bring their corn in to have it ground to make cornbread. And then also he ground a lot of corn. People back then would have their hog feed ground, feed their hogs as fattening out for meat or market or something. And
you could take, I can almost hear hogs smacking their lips now when they take that ground corn and maybe pour a little milk in it.
Yeah.
Skim milk. Mother had a cold water separator. Did you ever see one of those?
Oh, yes, yeah. Uh-huh.
Well, we'd get the cream off we could and sell it twice a week.
Right. We never had a separator. My wife always just used a big spoon and skimmed it off, you know. And
oh, I've seen Mother do that too.
We'd skim it off and save it for, I don't know, maybe once a week. That was after we moved up near Hardin.
Uh-huh.
And I'd carry it to Hardin on Saturday evening, and I'd buy her sugar and coffee and things like that.
I wanted to be a cream tester so bad I could taste it when I was a kid. They had a little cream test station where the post office is in Hardin, and I don't remember now who ran that, but that fellow he'd had a pencil behind his ear, and he'd take those test tube bottles out, you know, and put the milk in there and then turn the crank. And I think I asked him one time if he'd let me turn the crank. He was glad to do that.
Oh, yeah.
And then he'd take out a pair of calipers and measure the height in centimeters of that, and then he'd give you the percentage of the cream. Of course, that's the way they paid you. Well, I thought he was the most important man on this earth.
Well, he was really important back then.
Yeah.
Nearly everybody had had a milk cow back then, and
Oh,
that,
yeah, we all had at least one cow.
that extra cream always went to the market.
39 cents on Saturday and Wednesday meant a great deal then.
Right, you bet it did.
I don't know how we'd have gotten by without it. For salt and sugar and baking powder, so forth. Now, living where you did, what did you go to a country school back in there somewhere?
I went to Locust Grove. Of course, when the TVA bought all that land out, why they done away with Locust Grove School.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where I got what little education I've got.
Well, we all we've lost all of our one-room schools, as far as I know now. Good little
Well,
while ago, but at one time I understand there were nearly 60 of those one-room schools in Marshall County. And, the education they gave was very good on the fundamentals. Do you happen to remember any of the teachers you had?
Oh yes, I remember practically all of them. I think the first teacher I ever went to was Miss Dory Dyke,
Mm-hmm.
and then Johnny Owens. Did you ever know Johnny?
I don't think I did.
He taught more than 1 year. I don't remember just how long, but I was pretty small when he
Mm-hmm.
was teaching. And but I remember one thing about Johnny. He learned me a good lesson. Of course, I was trying to be a big boy, you know, and,
Yeah.
and he heard me say some kind of bad word. I don't remember what it was, but anyway, he just out with his handkerchief and wet it good and washed my mouth out.
Well, you know,
so that
we
learned me a lesson.
we did get some good lessons back there. I think I've told this story before, but a man named Hugh Hurt was teaching when I was going to school, and we played Fox and Dogs. Did you ever play that?
Oh yeah, one of my favorites.
Yeah. And at that time, I had won the Callaway County Grade School Championship run for the mile. Track meet at Alamo about 1935, I guess it was, or 6 maybe. And so they had me to be the fox. And instead of just running for about a quarter of a mile and then coming back in time for the afternoon session of school, we ran 4 or 5 miles down the road. We didn't get back till about 2:30 or so. Well, he was waiting for us, of course, had him a big paddle made. And he whipped all of us, and some of the boys cried. Well, I was going to show out, you know, just being a smart aleck. And so when he got to me, he warmed me up pretty well, but I didn't cry. And when he looked at me and said, "Well, how'd you like that?" And I said, "I didn't even feel it."
Oh.
That was a mistake. I felt it the next time. So anyway, I learned the lesson. And some of those lessons perhaps kept us out of the penitentiary.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we Locust Grove School was a very, I'd say, above the average large school in the county at that time. For we'd have around all from 50 to 75 students. you
Why,
know.
sure. That
And-
was a big school. Did you get all of your schooling there? Or
Yeah, I got all I got right there.
All right. And do you remember any of you mentioned playing Fox and Dogs. You remember anything else you might have?
Oh yeah, we
enjoyed?
played just about all the games, I guess, that was played. Of course, we had an outdoor basketball court, played
Mhm.
basketball, and then we played hoop over the river and
Mhm.
Annie over. where
Did you
throw
ever
the
have
ball over the house, you know, and catch
Did you ever
it.
have pie suppers on Friday night?
Oh, mercy, yes. That was the big deal.
Yeah, we
Pie
got,
suppers and
get a
box
little-
suppers. And,
get a little older, we started looking at the girls.
right.
Where did
yeah.
you meet your wife?
Well, I can't recall the first time I met her. I mean, she was working here at the hosier mill with some cousins of mine,
Mhm.
and we all kind of run around together and got acquainted through the fellowship with some of my cousins, and
Mhm.
then a cousin of mine married her sister, and
So that put her
Kinda-
more in the family,
right,
sort of, and you kept
mhm.
seeing more and more,
Right.
and as you saw more, you liked it.
right,
Yeah.
right. Here I wound up having to live with her now for about 52 years.
Oh, you've already had the golden wedding
Oh yeah,
anniversary.
yeah.
Yeah.
We had it in 83.
Was she
83.
born in Marshall County?
Yeah, she was born up near Union Hill School. You know where Union Hill School?
Oh, of
Mhm,
course. I remember going there a
Uh,
number of times. That wasn't too far from Peggy Ann Spring.
Right, right.
Yeah. So, but you didn't then go to school with her because she was the other side of the county.
Right. No, we still have a few arguments over that as to which one learned the most.
Yeah.
Whether she learned the most at Union Hill or I learned the most at Locust
Locust
Grove.
Grove,
See,
yeah. There are always little rivalries, and I think that's good.
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
Now, I heard you say a while ago that you went up to Hardin, or in that general neighborhood. Was that because of your wife?
Well, no, we were already married at that time.
Mhm.
That is, we married in 1933. And,
Boy, that was a grim time to start housekeeping. Is right in the heart of the Depression.
It really was. I mean,
Weren't you a
we,
little frightened about?
you know, we wasn't really. I mean, we didn't worry about not having something to eat, or it just didn't.
You just
Didn't
trusted
bother us,
that the
right.
Lord
Mm.
would provide a way
Right.
somehow.
Yeah, we
Well, now
we
a
had
lot
to
of
go to Metropolis to get married. I mean, we was both underage. In fact, we were just 17 years old when we married.
so you
yeah.
couldn't legally marry without
Right.
permission in
Right.
Kentucky.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So we went to Metropolis, and but I remember very well when we got back from Metropolis, we had $33 between us to,
Well, now
start,
that-
to start out housekeeping.
In a way, for those days, maybe that was a lot of money.
Well, it was a lot of money then.
Yeah.
In fact, most of that was hers. I'll have to give her credit for it. Because
she had a dowry.
Yes, well, she had a job. She was working over at the hosier mill, see.
Yeah.
I think they made $7, $8 a week over there then. And
Boy, that's a lot of money, wasn't it? I remember my dad one year, all he had was a tobacco crop. He just made $14 for the year.
yeah. I remember some of those years too.
All right, now, a lot of people got in rather dire straits around here, and they heard that they were working in the automobile plants. Did you ever run off to Detroit? Or
Yeah, back in the spring of '34, I decided I'd go to Detroit and I'd get rich and be back. Well, I went to Detroit and I stayed a month, but I never was able to land any kind of a job, so I come back, got back home on Saturday before Tater Day that year. Come to Benton, bought me a pair of little horses and started making a crop.
One thing you could do in those Depression years, and I know I was old enough to remember Dad and Mother going through it, you could always at least have something to eat on the table if you
Right.
mind to plant a garden and
Right.
can some fruit and vegetables and meat and so forth. I guess
Well,
you
we-
always fattened a hog.
Oh yeah, we had our own meat most of the time, and raised the other stuff. And
Did you make any lye soap?
oh yeah, she's made lye soap many times. And,
Probably she and the neighbors quilted some.
oh yeah, she made quilts and well, just you know,
Uh-huh.
seemed like there was always something to be done.
Oh, there was. My mother could think up lots of things. For example, if I were sitting around wanting to read, which I was most of the time, when I wasn't plowing or something, why, she said, you know, you could help me peel these apples. We'd dry apples, and then you'd put them up on top of a house, and they'd have to be brought in every night, though. She didn't want the dew to fall on them or something. I don't know why that would hurt them, but
Well, then they claim it called them turn them dark, you know.
well, I guess it would.
Seemed like that's what I remember.
There was always water to draw.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
The chickens to feed.
Hmm.
You'd have,
Cows to milk. Mhm.
if nothing else, you had to put out. Mother always kept oyster shells for the chickens to eat, so they'd lay better eggs.
You know, it seems to me like till yet I can tell when we get what we call them red eggs. You know.
You like those better than you do the white ones?
Seem like we do. Yes, sir. Seem like we do.
Now, that's true of nearly everybody I ever knew, except my mother. Now, she always raised leggers,
Well.
and they had white eggs, of course. Of course, now and then you would, the preacher'd come home with you for Sunday. Did you ever have that happen?
Oh,
They killed a
mercy.
chicken and fried it and had sawmill gravy.
Well, of course, my dad and mother, their home was open to the preachers. Now, we were about halfway, see, between Gibbertsville and Bethel Church over there.
Mm-hmm.
And as far back as I can remember, every year we had a Bush Arbor meeting there at Locust Grove.
Tell us what a brush arbor meeting was.
Well, it was just actually just what it says, a brush arbor. In other words,
Well, now, why did the men...
you would set posts and then put poles around it, you know, and fasten them, and then put just throw cross poles up there, and then you'd take brush.
And that
and
made
cover
it shady.
that just enough to make a good shade. And that was the meeting place. Then they'd get just rough sawed lumber somewhere and blocks and fix the seats under it.
You know, I've been to brush arbor meetings, so it really wasn't. I just wanted you to tell the listening audience what they were like. But I have always wondered just why we did it. Unless you went to a neighborhood, I guess, where there wasn't a church building.
Well, that was one reason. I'm sure that was the reason why we had them there at Locust Grove. However, we also had, for years and years, we had Sunday school there at Locust Grove School, just as regular as they had it in either one of the other churches. But we would have, every year, we'd have a revival just as regular as the churches did.
And they didn't have weekend meetings, did they? They'd run for 2 weeks maybe, or 3?
Yeah, I can well remember one that went for 3.5 weeks. Brother Roscoe Burkhart was the evangelist, and in fact, he didn't, and the people didn't want him to close it when he did, but due to other commitments, he had to close.
Another date somewhere to go on.
And when that revival was over, I think it was 28 or 9 that was baptized down in Tennessee River down there.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, then, I mean, it was agreed with the churches that each church would open their books, you know, for if one wanted to go to Gilbertsville, well and good. If it wanted to go to Bethel, why, still well and good. And also, I remember even the Methodists joining in with the revivals, and you know, if anyone wanted to make a commitment to the Methodist Church, why, it was just fine. And if it was the other way around, why, it's still
You know, it
fine.
might have been a little bit cooler in that arbor than it would have been inside a house.
Well, it would be. It would have been, I'm sure, at that time. I
just thought of that. Maybe.
Of course, another thing I can remember very much about it was pretty bad for bugs too. You know, around the lights. We had they had a light. It was kerosene light, but it had a tank fixed on it, and then a pipe run down to the burner. And you get that burner lit, well, then there'd be little flames come out, little holes around the burner, and they'd have them hung up. Maybe there'd be 4, 5, 6, depending on, you know, how big the crowd was and so forth, to light up the place. And then they'd have generally just regular lamps on the pulpit and for the choir.
What size town was Gilbertsville back then? Was it? Did it have some general stores?
Oh yes, they was. Let's see, they was about 4 or 5 general stores there. Mr. Will Moore, he was, I'd say, was considered about the biggest store in town. And then Aunt Addie Chestnut, she had a store right on the railroad track, and she also was the handled the mail. The back of her store run right out to the railroad where they could just unload the mail right off the railroad cars onto her porch.
That was real handy.
It was. And
well, now let's see. Did you have any children?
yes, we have 4. We have 2 boys and 2 girls.
Now, I knew Gerald. Was he an
Gerald,
older or younger boy?
Well, he's the oldest boy. Now, Joe is our oldest daughter that married, Joe married Jerome Cox.
Yeah.
They live here in town.
I know her.
And Gerald, he's in Mayfield.
Does he still teach
He's
music?
No, he got out of the band 2 years ago, I guess. His feet began to give him problems, and so he dropped out of the band, and he just teaches. He teaches history in the middle school over there now.
I know he used to have some good bands.
Oh yes, yeah, and he really enjoyed them too. But he was always heavy, you know, and it just was getting to him, I guess, as his
Now,
years
Jerome
began
and
to.
Josephine, now they're good singers. I've heard them sing. They help them occasionally in Southern Harmony.
Yeah, and they really enjoyed. They really enjoyed. And Jerome is he's a barber shopper.
Yeah.
That's his.
Oh, I see him and old
his
John
specialty.
Woods occasionally
Yeah,
showing off.
Yeah. If you ever see them, they're showing off. And
Right now, you
Then they-
mentioned 2 other children.
then the youngest daughter, Judy, she's married and lives in Connecticut. Her husband is an electrician and her electrician supervisor, and they're in Connecticut. And then the youngest son is in service. he's making a career out of it, and at the present time they're in Maryland.
Well, now, tell us some of the other things that you did. We've still got about 5 minutes left. Didn't you want to run a service station one time here?
Oh yes, I spent about 15 years out here in the service station right out on the corner from the house here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I opened that station the first day of 1941, and stayed there till, well...
Was it a pretty rough go during the war when you just allowed 3 or 4 gallons a week?
Well, actually, that was about the best time as far as, making money was concerned.
You didn't
because,
have much competition then, I guess.
Well, you could just sell about everything you could get, see. I mean,
had no
tires
trouble
and
getting
everything.
rid of a tire, did
That's
you?
right. I remember one day, of course, you had to have certificates, to buy the tires with, and I had turned in, I was at that time a handle Firestone tires,
Mm-hmm.
and I had sent in orders for, I think it was 30 tires, and they all come in one day, and we put all those tires on in one day's time. That's about the biggest day's work we ever done.
It'd been a little better if you could have strung it out a while.
Well, right. But back then, I mean, there were certain items like your tires, your batteries, and your antifreeze and stuff like that was, I'd say 99% of it was purchased through the stations.
Mm-hmm.
And you serviced the cars with it. I mean, you got ready for your antifreeze, you'd come in and say, John, I want to antifreeze my car for the winter.
Mhm.
Well, we would fix it up. I mean, you couldn't go to the drugstore, to Walmart or somewhere and buy it and then bring it in and say, would you put this in for me?
Yeah. Well, we didn't have all those little stores on every corner then.
But we didn't have competition wouldn't let you have too much of a markup on stuff like that,
Yeah.
but it was still a pretty good
Now-
business. And I always enjoyed the service station business.
Are you still trying to work?
Oh, I piddle some. I still work out at the Marshall County Memory Gardens.
Now, when did you get into that?
Well, I started out there in, I believe it was October of 1960. And,
I know Janie's
So-
grandmother, Nettie Landon, was
yeah,
buried out there.
mhm. And I've been out there ever since. I thought when I started out there, well, that's one of the most foolish jobs I ever had in my life. But after I began to realize what it really was, why,
It's fairly pleasant,
It is.
though, isn't it?
it is. I mean, of course, I've always worked outside, at something, and I just enjoy being outside. And of course, I'm not physically able to do the amount of work that I used to do, but I still like to go out there and do what I can.
Yeah. Nice, beautiful, grassy plot. We got a minute
thank you.
left. Do you have any kind of story you'd like to tell to end up with? Do you think of any funny thing that happened in your life, or your most embarrassing moment, or?
Well, I I can't think of right off. I thought I would tell you one about what happened one time way back. Of course, people used to go seining. You go fishing during the summer over in the Gaheen ponds and around. And
Yes.
well, I'd been a fishing and had come in and I hadn't left much stovewood cut, see, to cook with. Well, when I got in, I was just about dead on foot, and I was going to take me a nap, and I laid down to take a nap before wife had been peeling peaches and getting them ready to can, and needed some wood to cook them with. So I laid down and took a nap, take a nap. About the time I got good and asleep, she doused me with that peach fuzz water, you know.
That's a good story.
That really woke me up.
Well, thank you so much, John Sledd. It's a pleasure visiting with you. This is Ray Mofield speaking. We return you now to our studio.